The rain fell in relentless sheets over Arlington, Virginia, on February 21, 1994, as a man stepped onto his porch, briefcase in hand, oblivious to the eyes watching from the shadows. Aldrich Ames, a 52-year-old CIA veteran, had spent nearly a decade orchestrating one of the most devastating betrayals in American history. For 9 years, he sold the nation's deepest secrets to the Soviet Union's KGB and later Russia's SVR, trading the lives of U.S. spies for millions in blood money. His leaks led to the execution of at least 10 CIA assets, crippled the agency's operations, and shook the foundations of U.S. intelligence. Caught in a dramatic FBI sting, Ames was sentenced to life without parole, his name forever synonymous with treason. This is the story of a man who turned his back on his country, a tale woven with greed, deception, and the chilling cost of betrayal in the clandestine world of espionage. Welcome, my incredible viewers, to another heart-pounding dive into the shadows of true crime and espionage. A massive thank you to every subscriber, supporter, and storyteller who keeps this channel alive. Your passion fuels these tales. If this story grips you, smash that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to uncover more shocking spy scandals. Let's unravel the saga of Aldrich Ames, the CIA's darkest mole. Born on May 26, 1941, in the sleepy town of River Falls, Wisconsin, Aldrich Rick Ames seemed an unlikely candidate for infamy. His father, Carlton Ames, was a history professor with a hidden life as a CIA contractor, planting early seeds of intrigue in young Rick's mind. His mother, Rachel, a high school teacher, nurtured a quiet, introspective boy who loved theater and history, but showed little ambition. The family moved frequently, Chicago, Virginia, following Carlton's covert work. At 16, in 1957, Rick got his first taste of the CIA, working as a summer intern, sorting files in Langley's labyrinthine halls. The agency's mystique captivated him. Coded messages, secret missions, the power to shape history. He wasn't a star, his grades were average, his demeanor unremarkable. But the CIA saw potential in his ability to fade into the background, a trait that would later make him deadly. By 1962, Ames enrolled at George Washington University, majoring in history while working part-time at the CIA. He was no James Bond, awkward, slightly pudgy, with a penchant for cheap suits and cheaper whiskey. After graduating in 1967, he joined the agency full-time as a case officer, trained to recruit foreign agents, run covert operations, and navigate the moral gray zones of spycraft. The Cold War was at its peak, a global chessboard where the US and Soviet Union vied for supremacy through espionage. Ames's early assignments were lackluster. Ankara, Turkey, 1969 to 1972, where he struggled to recruit sources. New York City, 1972 to 1976, handling Soviet diplomats with mediocre results. Colleagues pegged him as competent but uninspired, a bureaucrat in a world of swashbucklers. In 1969, he married Nancy Sagabarth, a fellow CIA officer, and their life settled into a predictable rhythm. But Ames was restless, his ambitions simmering beneath a bland exterior. The turning point came in 1981, when Ames was posted to Mexico City, a cauldron of espionage where CIA, KGB, and Cuban agents played a deadly game. Mexico was a pressure cooker, humid, chaotic, and brimming with opportunity. Ames's marriage to Nancy was crumbling, eroded by long hours and his growing reliance on alcohol. He'd spend nights in dive bars, nursing vodka and brooding over a career stuck in neutral. It was here that he met Maria del Rosario Casas Dupuy, a 29-year-old Colombian cultural attaché with a magnetic presence. Rosario, born into Bogotá's elite, was cultured, ambitious, and fiercely independent. Their affair was electric, a whirlwind of stolen moments in Mexico's vibrant streets. By 1983, Ames divorced Nancy and married Rosario, bringing her to the U.S. Their love was passionate, but it carried a hidden cost. Rosario craved a life of luxury, designer dresses, exotic vacations, a home worthy of her status. Ames's $60,000 CIA salary couldn't keep up, and the weight of her expectations began to crush him. Back in Washington by 1984, Ames was assigned to the CIA's Soviet/East European Division, a role that handed him the keys to the agency's most sensitive secrets. He had access to the identities of Soviet officials and citizens spying for the U.S., assets who risked their lives to deliver intelligence from the Kremlin's heart. These men and women were the CIA's lifeline, their reports shaping U.S. strategy against the USSR. But Ames was drowning. $30,000 in debt, a wife demanding more, and a drinking habit spiraling out of control. On April 16, 1985, he made a choice that would change history. He walked into the Soviet embassy in Washington, a fortress of KGB activity hidden behind diplomatic smiles. Heart pounding, he offered a deal, classified CIA documents for cash. The KGB, wary but intrigued, agreed to a test. Ames handed over a folder of low-level CIA operations, walking away with $50,000 in a paper bag. The thrill was intoxicating, like outsmarting the world's best spies. For Ames, it was just the beginning. The Soviets, sensing a gold mine, codenamed him Kolokol, Russian for Bell, a fitting moniker for a man whose leaks rang out with devastating clarity. Over the next 9 years, Ames became their most prized asset, delivering intelligence that gutted U.S. operations. He provided the names of every CIA asset in the USSR: Valery Martinov, Sergei Motorin, Dmitry Polyakov, and at least 7 others, men who trusted the agency with their lives. He handed over details of CIA double-agent programs, technical manuals for surveillance systems, and even lists of U.S. operatives abroad. His method was brazenly simple. During lunch breaks at Langley, he'd photocopy classified files, stash them in plastic grocery bags, and deliver them to KGB handlers at dead drops. Georgetown parks, foggy bottom restaurants, suburban mailboxes. The Soviets paid generously. $2.7 million over his career, with $1.9 million more promised in Moscow accounts. The cash transformed Ames's life. He bought a $540,000 Arlington home in cash, a Jaguar XJ6, tailored suits, and a wardrobe for Rosario that rivaled a Milan runway. To colleagues, he spun lies about inheritances and stock market wins, but his opulence was a glaring anomaly. The human cost of Ames's betrayal was staggering. By late 1985, the CIA noticed a horrifying trend. Their Soviet assets were disappearing. Valery Martinov, a KGB officer who fed the CIA secrets from Moscow, was recalled home and executed in a Lubyanka basement. Sergei Motorin, another KGB informant, vanished into a Siberian gulag, never to return. Dmitry Polyakov, codenamed Topat, was a GRU general who'd spied for the U.S. since the 1960s. He was arrested, interrogated, and shot. At least 10 agents, each with families' dreams and courage, were executed because of Ames's leaks. Dozens more were imprisoned or went silent, their fates unknown. The CIA's Soviet operations, built over decades at a cost of billions, collapsed like a house of cards. In Langley's sterile corridors, paranoia took hold. Was it a technical breach, a compromised code, or, worst of all, a mole? The agency launched a task force, But Ames, sitting in their midst, deflected suspicion with his unassuming charm and insider savvy. Ames's personal life was a facade of normalcy masking a deepening abyss. To Rosario, he was a doting husband, shielding her from his double life. She believed their wealth came from investments, not the deaths of strangers. At work, he played the role of a diligent officer, attending briefings, filing reports, cracking jokes over coffee. But his drinking grew reckless. He'd stumble into meetings, breath heavy with whiskey, eyes glassy. His spending raised red flags. A $540,000 home on a $60,000 salary. A Jaguar parked outside Langley? Colleagues whispered. But Ames was untouchable, a veteran with access to the CIA's inner sanctum. In 1986, he was posted to Rome, a city of ancient secrets and modern intrigue. The assignment was a gift. He met KGB handlers in Vienna, Paris, and Lisbon, passing secrets under the guise of diplomatic travel. Rosario thrived, hosting lavish dinners at their villa, oblivious to the blood funding their Prosecco. The KGB, cautious of a double cross, pressed for more. Ames delivered, betraying a network of CIA double agents, ensuring their doom. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 didn't slow Ames. The KGB's successor, the SVR, inherited his loyalty. Back in Washington by 1992, he worked at the CIA's Counter-Narcotics Center, a less sensitive post but still with access to classified databases. The money kept coming. $300,000 drops in Zurich, $500,000 wired to Colombia. Rosario, now a fixture in Arlington's social scene, demanded more. A second home, private schools for their son, Paul, born in 1989. Their house was a monument to excess. Marble floors, a wine cellar, a grand piano Rosario rarely played. But suspicion was mounting. Jean Vertefeuille, a dogged CIA analyst, led a mole hunt that zeroed in on financial anomalies. Ames's credit card bills, $50,000 a month, were impossible to ignore. He passed polygraphs in 1986 and 1991, lying with chilling ease. It's just money, he'd think, steadying his pulse. But the noose was tightening. In 1993, the CIA and FBI joined forces under Operation Night Mover, a desperate bid to catch the mole. A KGB defector's tip, a high-level CIA traitor codenamed Kolokol, pointed to Ames. The FBI's Operation Skylight swung into action. Agents tailed Ames, bugged his home, and sifted through his trash, finding scraps of notes with references to drops and Moscow. They tracked his meetings with SVR handler Vladimir Tkachenko, disguised as a diplomat. Ames, oblivious, planned a CIA trip to Moscow, a move that screamed arrogance. On February 21, 1994, as rain soaked Arlington, the FBI struck. Agents swarmed his street, pinning Ames against his Jaguar. "You're under arrest for espionage," an agent barked. Rosario, watching from the doorway, collapsed in shock. "It's a mistake," Ames stammered. But the evidence was ironclad. The trial in Alexandria, Virginia, was a spectacle. Ames, facing life in prison, cut a deal to spare Rosario harsher charges. On April 28, 1994, he pleaded guilty to espionage and conspiracy, his allocution a cold recitation of greed. Judge Claude Hilton delivered a scathing verdict. Life without parole, a sentence to rot in obscurity. Rosario, convicted of tax evasion, served 5 years, her dreams of grandeur buried. The CIA's losses were incalculable. $1 billion in operations, 10 lives snuffed out, trust shattered. The agency revamped its protocols. Stricter vetting, financial audits, polygraph scrutiny. But the scars remained. Families of the executed, Martinov's children, Polyakov's widow, grappled with grief, their loved ones reduced to footnotes in Ames's betrayal. What drove Aldrich Ames to such depths? Greed was the engine. $4.6 million in payments, the highest of any U.S. spy. But there was more. He resented the CIA's bureaucracy, its cliques that overlooked him for promotions. He saw himself as a chess master, outwitting Langley's brightest. Rosario's demands were a catalyst, but Ames never blamed her. "I wanted to give her everything," he told a prison mate, a flicker of loyalty in his hollow heart. His alcoholism dulled the guilt, each glass of vodka washing away the faces of the dead. Unlike ideological traitors like Edward Snowden, Ames had no cause. He was a mercenary, trading lives for cash. A man who saw espionage as a game he could win. Today, at 83, Ames languishes in USP Allenwood, a high-security prison in Pennsylvania. His cell is a concrete box, his days filled with books, letters, and fading memories of Rome's piazzas. Health issues, heart trouble, arthritis, plague him, but his mind remains sharp. In rare interviews, he deflects blame, painting the CIA as flawed, his actions as inevitable. "Everyone has a price," he once said, a smirk betraying his cynicism. Rosario, released in 2000, rebuilt her life in Colombia, distancing herself from the past. The CIA, forever changed, tightened its defenses, but Ames's shadow lingers. His betrayal exposed a truth. Even the most trusted can turn. The agents he doomed, Martinov, Motorin, Polyakov, were more than assets. They were heroes, their sacrifices erased by a man who valued dollars over honor. As Russia's influence grows, cyber attacks, covert ops, disinformation, the lessons of Ames resonate. The next mole could be anywhere, slipping secrets through the cracks of trust. His story is a warning, a cold reminder that betrayal thrives in the shadows of ambition and greed. In the quiet of Allenwood, Ames is a relic, a man who gambled with history and lost. But the echoes of his actions ripple on, a haunting question for us all. Who else is out there waiting to sell their soul? Thank you for joining this epic journey into espionage's darkest corners. Your support means the world. If this story shook you, share it with friends, hit that like button, and subscribe for more true crime sagas. Let's keep the conversation going. Could another Ames be hiding in plain sight? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next tale of secrets and betrayal.